A crowded, buzzing AGT stage, lights flashing, judges staring skeptically. A small, barefoot Filipino boy steps forward, clutching a worn-out notebook filled with dance moves he learned from YouTube videos. The audience murmurs, wondering if this 12-year-old can really deliver. He looks nervous but determined, whispering to himself, "I just want to make people happy with my dance." In a tiny village in the Philippines where the streets were narrow and lined with houses made of bamboo and corrugated tin, a 12-year-old boy named Miguel practiced his passion every evening. His room was no bigger than a closet, the floor uneven, and the only light came from a flickering bulb that swayed gently with the evening breeze. The walls were bare except for a faded poster of Michael Jackson, taped crookedly above the cracked window, where Miguel used the faint reflection as his mirror. Every night, after helping his mother with chores and making sure his younger siblings had their simple dinner, Miguel would close the door and take a deep breath, whispering, "Just one more time. Get it right this time." His movements were precise yet fluid, as if he were painting a story in the air with every step. He practiced moonwalks across the small floor, spins that almost made him dizzy, and signature hand gestures that he had painstakingly memorized from countless YouTube videos. His sneakers were old with holes in the soles, but he never let that stop him. The rhythm in his heart was louder than any imperfection of his shoes. What made Miguel's dancing extraordinary wasn't just his technique. It was the joy and emotion he infused into every move. His eyes sparkled with determination, and his face lit up when he perfected a tricky spin. Even in this cramped, dimly lit room, he imagined the cheers of a global audience, the clapping hands of judges, and the smiling faces of people who would see his performance one day. He didn't just want to dance, he wanted to share happiness. Miguel's little room was often filled with the laughter of his younger cousins, who sometimes peeked in to watch him practice. Instead of shooing them away, he welcomed them, letting them mimic his moves. "Step like this. No, like this," he would say, crouching down to guide their tiny feet. Even in his pursuit of personal dreams, he found joy in lifting others, teaching them and letting them feel the magic that dance could bring. To Miguel, talent meant little if it couldn't be shared. Outside, the sounds of the village were familiar. Dogs barking, neighbors calling to each other, the hum of tricycles passing by. But inside, the room became a sanctuary. In those precious hours, Miguel was free from the pressures of poverty, school struggles, and the expectations of daily life. Here he was a star. Each performance in the mirror, each practiced routine, was a silent promise to himself. One day, I'll show the world that even a boy from a tiny village can shine. By the time the dim bulb flickered low, Miguel's body ached, his muscles protested, but his spirit was unbroken. He'd fall onto his mat, sweaty and exhausted, yet smiling. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "I'll do it better. I'll make them proud. I'll make them smile." In this small room, among humble surroundings, a dream was quietly growing, one that would soon leap far beyond the cracked window and into the dazzling lights of the world stage. The morning sun rose over Miguel's village, painting the rooftops with a soft golden glow. Today was different. Today he wasn't just dancing in his tiny room or teaching his cousins. Today he was headed to audition for America's Got Talent. His small family had scraped together every peso they could spare. His mother clutched a worn tote bag filled with sandwiches and water bottles, while his father guided Miguel through the narrow streets toward the bus station, whispering words of encouragement between nervous glances. The bus ride was long and exhausting. The vehicle was old, rattling over potholes and packed with families, market vendors, and travelers like them. Miguel sat on a cracked seat, practicing spins in his mind, imagining the spotlight waiting at the audition hall. But the journey was far from smooth. Midway, the bus sputtered and ground to a halt in the middle of a dusty road. A cloud of smoke puffed from the engine, and passengers grumbled in frustration. Some argued with the driver. Others stared at their watches, worried about missing their destinations. Miguel, however, didn't panic. He remembered his father's words. "You can't control the road, but you can control your steps." Taking a deep breath, he stood up and tapped his feet lightly to a rhythm only he could hear. Slowly, a few passengers turned to watch, their irritation replaced by curiosity. Miguel smiled nervously, then began performing small, precise moves, foot slides, spins, and subtle moonwalks, all adapted to the narrow aisle. His small frame moved with surprising grace, and soon, the sound of clapping replaced the complaints. Even strangers were captivated, forgetting their delays, their frustration, as they cheered for this boy dancing in the middle of a dusty road. By the time the bus finally started moving again, Miguel had not only entertained the passengers but had also turned a moment of frustration into laughter and hope. His father's eyes glistened with pride. "See?" he whispered. "Even before the stage, your heart is already shining." Miguel nodded, feeling a warm rush of purpose. This journey wasn't just about reaching the audition. It was about showing kindness, resilience, and joy along the way. Every step, every spin, every smile he shared with strangers made him feel closer to the stage and closer to himself. As the city skyline finally appeared, Miguel's excitement surged. The bus stopped and the family hurried toward the AGT venue, his worn shoes kicking up dust. Inside the bustling audition hall, lights glimmered and hopeful contestants rushed by. Miguel took a deep breath, adjusting the small jacket his mother had ironed the night before. Despite the chaos and the nerves, he felt ready. He remembered the dusty roads, the cheering strangers, the small room with the cracked window, and he knew one thing for certain. His heart had already performed 1,000 times, and now it was ready for the world stage. Miguel stepped onto the AGT stage and the roar of the crowd hit him like a wave. The lights were brighter than anything he had ever seen, and the polished floor reflected his small frame, making him appear almost fragile in the vast arena. The judges watched intently, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Simon Cowell, famously hard to impress, leaned back, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. Miguel felt a knot in his stomach, but he remembered his father's words from the dusty bus ride. "Your heart has already danced 1,000 times. Now just let it shine." The music began, a faint beat that quickly built into the unmistakable rhythm of a Michael Jackson classic. Miguel inhaled, positioning his feet, lifting his head and letting the world fade away. Each movement was precise yet full of emotion. His feet glided in perfect moonwalks, spins so smooth that it seemed gravity had forgotten him, and signature hand gestures that mirrored the king of pop, but carried a piece of Miguel's own story. Every step told a tale of struggle, hope, and the pure joy of dreaming big. The audience, initially quiet, began to stir. Whispers turned into gasps as Miguel twirled and slid across the stage with confidence far beyond his years. Children in the crowd leaned forward, eyes wide, inspired by the boy who moved with so much passion. Parents exchanged glances, realizing that this was more than a performance, it was a glimpse into the limitless potential of a child's heart. Simon Cowell, who had seen countless acts over the years, sat rigid, his usual poker face replaced by genuine awe. Miguel's dancing wasn't just skill, it was storytelling. It conveyed humility and courage, the struggles of a small boy from a humble village and the magic of sharing joy with others. Even the other judges could barely hide their smiles. Some were wiping tears from the corners of their eyes. The energy in the room built to a crescendo, each beat of the music matched by the pounding of hearts in the audience. Miguel's final spin came unexpectedly, an intricate combination of moves he had practiced countless nights under the dim glow of his small bulb. He landed in a perfect pose, one hand stretched toward the sky, eyes gleaming with hope and determination. The room fell silent for a split second, as if holding its breath, then erupted in deafening applause. People jumped to their feet, cheering, shouting, clapping. The lights of cameras flashed, capturing the moment that would soon be broadcast worldwide. Simon Cowell rose from his chair, a rare smile breaking across his face, and slammed the golden buzzer. The stage exploded with confetti and cheers, but Miguel's focus was inward. He realized then that it wasn't just the lights, the applause, or even the golden buzzer that mattered. It was the knowledge that his dream, his passion, and his heart had touched thousands of lives in that one fleeting moment. For Miguel, the stage was no longer intimidating, it was home. Every struggle, every hour spent practicing in a tiny room, had led to this moment of pure transformative joy. He smiled, knowing that his story was just beginning, and that through his talent he could inspire the world to believe in dreams, hope, and the power of the human spirit. The confetti slowly settled on the stage, glittering under the bright lights, but Miguel barely noticed. His heart was still racing from the performance, his chest swelling not with pride but with something deeper, a sense of purpose, a realization that his dream had become something bigger than himself. Around him the audience roared, but Miguel's gaze found Simon Cowell, whose rare smile and teary eyes reflected more than admiration. They reflected a profound respect for the boy's courage and authenticity. Backstage, the crew and fellow contestants rushed to congratulate him, but Miguel's thoughts were elsewhere. He thought of the narrow streets of his village, the cracked window that had served as his first mirror, the little cousins who had followed his every move, and his parents who had sacrificed so much to bring him here. Every hardship, every sleepless night spent practicing under a flickering bulb had led to this moment. He realized that this performance was never just about winning. It was about showing the world what hope, perseverance, and kindness could accomplish. As news of his performance spread, social media exploded. Clips of Miguel dancing went viral within hours. People around the world were captivated, not only by his extraordinary talent but by the story behind it. A young boy from a small Filipino village, barefoot and humble, had reminded millions that greatness can emerge from the most unexpected places. Inspirational messages flooded in, children writing that they now believed in their dreams, parents expressing pride in their own kids' potential, and even seasoned performers sharing that Miguel's courage had moved them to tears. In interviews, Miguel spoke softly, always deflecting attention from himself. "I just wanted to make people happy," he said, smiling shyly. His words carried a weight far beyond his age. They reminded everyone watching that true impact is measured not by fame, trophies, or applause, but by the smiles and hope we inspire in others. Teachers, mentors, and parents around the globe shared his story with children, emphasizing the power of passion, discipline, and generosity of heart. Even Simon Cowell, who had seen countless acts over the years, publicly praised Miguel for more than his dancing. "This boy reminds us what performing is truly about," Simon said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's not just skill, it's heart. It's courage. It's giving something of yourself that touches everyone around you." The golden buzzer, spectacular as it was, felt almost secondary. Miguel had already achieved something far more lasting. He had sparked a wave of inspiration and hope. By the time Miguel returned home to his village, the transformation was evident. People gathered to welcome him, cheering not for the golden buzzer but for the example he had set. Children practiced their own moves, emboldened by his courage. Parents encouraged their kids to dream bigger. Even the streets seemed brighter, as if the joy Miguel had shared had spread into the very air itself. Miguel understood finally that the true reward wasn't the fame or accolades. It was the knowledge that his story had planted seeds of hope, courage, and kindness in the hearts of thousands. Through a single act of selfless passion, a ripple had begun, one that would inspire countless others to dream, to persevere, and to share joy wherever they went. Back in his small village, the dust of the city and the glitz of the stage felt like distant memories, yet the lessons of the journey lingered in Miguel's heart. He returned not as just a boy who had performed on America's Got Talent, but as a symbol of hope and perseverance. The streets that had once seemed ordinary now felt brighter, every laugh of the neighborhood children echoing with newfound inspiration. Miguel's parents greeted him with tearful hugs, overwhelmed by pride and relief. "You did it, Anak," his mother whispered, holding his face gently. "You made the world see your heart." Miguel, however, smiled humbly. Fame, applause, and even the golden buzzer suddenly felt secondary. He thought of the countless nights practicing under a flickering bulb, the cracked window that reflected his determination, and the little cousins who had copied his every move. Every hardship, every sacrifice, every ounce of effort had not only brought him to the stage, it had allowed him to share joy, hope, and courage with the world. And that was worth more than any trophy. That evening, Miguel gathered the neighborhood children in the small clearing near his home. With the same patience he had always shown, he began teaching them new dance steps. He encouraged them to spin, glide, and express themselves, laughing when their feet tangled or a move didn't work. "It's not about being perfect," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "It's about sharing what you love and making people happy. That's what really matters." Parents watched from nearby, smiling. Many had once doubted whether their own children could achieve greatness, but Miguel's journey had rewritten that story. One neighbor, an elderly woman, whispered to her grandson, "See, even someone small with little can do something extraordinary if they have heart." Across the village, a quiet transformation was taking place. Children dared to dream bigger, families dared to hope, and the simple act of one boy dancing had sparked courage in every heart it touched. Miguel himself felt a quiet, profound joy. He understood now that talent could open doors, but kindness and courage opened hearts. His performance on the world stage had been remarkable, but the smiles he inspired, the hope he kindled, and the lessons he shared with his village were the true triumphs. He realized that the golden buzzer wasn't just for him. It was a celebration of everyone who believed in dreams, in perseverance, and in the magic of giving joy to others. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Miguel paused to look around at the children attempting his moves, laughing and cheering each other on. A sense of peace washed over him. In that moment, he knew the journey was far from over. There would be more stages, more performances, more audiences, but the most important stage had always been right here, the hearts and lives he could touch every day. With a soft smile, Miguel whispered to himself, "Dream big, work hard, be kind. That's how the world changes." And in that humble village, under the fading sunlight, a young boy who had danced barefoot on a small stage became a living reminder that dreams, courage, and kindness could indeed move the world.